So I know a lot of us, myself included, are extremely busy people, and that can make it really, really difficult to actually make progress in a long-term goal like learning a language. So in this video, I'm going to talk about how you can study languages with a full-time job or an otherwise busy schedule so that you can make progress and feel fulfilled without having to sacrifice something you actually want so that you can work a job that's kind of taking up a lot of your time. And if you stick around to the end, I'm also going to give you a few bonus tips to make this happen. So first of all, here is basically the situation of what is going on. Here's you're attempting to learn a language, you have a perceived lack of time and poor time management because nobody doesn't have enough time to learn a language or do anything in a language. It's simply a perceived lack of time and poor time management, and what that results in is lack of progress, which results in frustration, which is why you're watching this video, because you don't feel that you have enough time to learn a language. I guarantee you the root of the problem is the management of the time you have. So you probably do think that your job or whatever is taking up a lot of your time, and I guarantee you can actually work around this and still make progress, even though you might have to balance it with a few different things. So the first thing we're going to do before we actually do anything else talking about language learning is to calculate how much free time you actually have. So we know what we're working with, a ballpark estimate. So what I want you to do is get a piece of paper or a book of paper and a pen, and we're basically going to write down the things that you do with your time currently so we can see how much free time you have. So there's 168 hours in a week. The first thing we're going to do is get rid of sleep. So you need to be sleeping at least 8 hours a night. Obviously 8 times 7 is 56, so you can write that down. 56 hours of sleep a week. That's gone straight away. You might want to put extra hours if you want to have 9 or 10 hours of sleep. It's completely up to you. The next thing we're going to do is work. So if you're working 40 hours a week, if you're working 20 hours a week, whatever you're doing, try and do a rough estimate of how much you're actually working each week. If you work like, say if you work like 40 hours a fortnight, for example, some weeks it might be 30, some weeks it might be 10. Just do the average, so just write 20 a week in that example. And yeah, just so you know roughly how much time you're spent working. And the important thing to do is not just put in how much time you're actually working, but the commute to work, so how long it takes to get there, things like breaks and things like getting ready as well. So any time you actually spend that is to do with work in any way needs to be added in. And then the other things we're going to write down are essentials. So food, groceries, that kind of thing. How much time does that take a week? I think if you set yourself 3 hours a day to eat, that is a lot of time for eating, but you can do that if you want, just so you know you're not going under, you're going over rather than under. But yeah, that kind of thing. And what you'll actually find is most people have actually 10 to 20 hours at least of free time. Even if you say, okay, 50 hours for work a week because I have to include commutes and that kind of thing, plus 60 hours for sleep. Okay, we're at 110 hours. That's still 78 hours left. You're not going to spend 78 hours eating, getting groceries, and doing essentials. That's so much free time you could actually spend. You could easily put 10 hours a week into language learning if you actually wanted to. So now that you've written out the things that you actually have and you know how much free time you have, if you haven't done that yet, pause the video and make sure you go do that. The next step is to decide how much time we actually want to spend on language learning out of our free time, because you don't have to spend all of your time. I'm not asking you to invest 40 hours a week into language learning. That's ridiculous. Unless you want to do that, in which case, go for the hills. But yeah, you don't have to do that. So what I'd recommend, though, that you should do absolutely no matter what, is to do one thing every single day, even if it is small. And the reason I tell you to do that, I'm pointing the pen at you a lot. There we go. The pen's gone now. Very sorry about that. The reason doing one thing every single day is extremely important is because a lot of people find, myself included, if they miss days here and there, even if they're trying to do like 3 days a week, they'll do something. It's very, very easy to not only fall inconsistent, but also feel inconsistent. And if you feel inconsistent, like you're not making progress in a language, it's very easy to get bogged down into a kind of low dopamine state where you don't feel like doing any actual language learning, and it kind of goes downhill from there. So make sure you are doing one thing every single day, even if it's small. Even if you're working 14-hour days, I guarantee you can do 5 minutes of watching one video in the foreign language you're learning. Even if you don't understand it, you can write one sentence out, you can learn one word every single day. You can do something, and this is extremely important because it will basically it'll keep you snowballing, but in a good way. It'll snowball your progress because you're staying consistent every single day. So now that we've established that you do need to do one thing every single day, ideally you should be spending at least a few hours a week doing actual productive work in a language. And I've written studying. It doesn't have to be studying, but yeah, just productive things. So what can you do in the language you're learning? Basically, there's a number of different tasks you can do that you should do to make sure you are making progress. For example, Studying is one, like for example, taking notes. I have a notebook. If you don't have one, let me show you real quick. Here's my notebook at the moment for learning Russian. I don't know if you can see that with the light, but basically you should have a notebook for learning. If you don't have one, pause the video, go to the shops and go buy one now, or I'm going to kill you, because I've said that so many times. But everyone should have a notebook for actually learning a language, where they can take notes on particular grammatical concepts, words they don't know, things like that. So that would be studying, for example, solving problems like that. Also practicing reading in a foreign language, practicing speaking in a foreign language, whether you're talking to a native speaker or you're filming yourself or you're just monologuing like a psychopath, all of those things work. Listening practice as well. You can listen to a podcast while you're driving or exercising or doing chores. That's what I like to do. Whenever I'm doing the washing or anything, I'm currently putting in the Slow Russian podcast. I'm just listening to that by, I've forgotten her name. Her first name's Dasha. That's very bad of me. Oh well, she's not sponsoring us, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, I listen to a podcast in the language I'm learning at the moment. So yeah, that's definitely good as well. So what I recommend you do at the moment, rather than just kind of go in and go, okay, I've got 15 hours of free time, I'm going to spend a few hours a week studying. Actually set yourself tasks to do to make sure you are actually holding yourself accountable, because it's all about consistency. As soon as you get inconsistent, not only do you stop making progress, but you actually feel like you're making even less progress than you think, and that makes you not want to study more, because it makes you feel like you're wasting your time. And you need to truly believe, you need to have a growth mindset that when you're putting in effort, you are actually getting a return on it. So that's why we need to be consistent. So what I want you to do is decide what tasks you want to do on a weekly basis. Do you want to read? Could you read one chapter? Could you read one page of a book every single night? Could you listen to 20 minutes of a podcast every single day? Could you study 4 times a week for maybe 30 minutes or an hour or something like that? Just decide what things you want to do, and I'll have a video linked in the description for high ROI language learning tasks if you need a bit of help actually establishing which tasks give you a high return on investment. But yeah, just try and have a look into that, and over time you will improve your system for learning over time, but it is very important to have some kind of system to actually take you from where you are now to your goal. So yeah, and a few tips I will give you. Before I do that, I'm just going to have a look at this graph again. Just understand that this is a lot of the time. It's not because you don't need to kill hours of your job. You don't need to cut back your hours or anything like that if you really want to learn a language. It's all to do with your perceived lack of time and poor time management. Once you actually plan out your time like we did right then, you can pretty easily see that you actually do have a lot of time. So a few tips I will give you to actually make this better. Whenever you deviate from a schedule, so say for example, you have this habit you do every single day, 5 minutes of watching a video, and then maybe today was a study day, so you're supposed to do 30 minutes of studying verb conjugation or whatever. If you deviate from that and you don't do it, every single time you do any kind of deviation, you need to journal on it. So what you do is you get a book, it can be your language learning notebook or another book, and you basically get a pen that I've thrown over my shoulder, and you journal about why it happened. So what was the problem? You deviated. Why did it happen? Oh, because I had to stay back at work for 2 hours because the back door didn't lock, and so we had to get a security guard. That's what happened to me recently, and that resulted in me breaking my 3-month video posting streak. So a little bit unhappy about that, but I take responsibility. So any deviation at all, you journal on it and you find a solution. And you'll find that when you actually start journaling, it's so much better than just thinking about stuff, because getting the words onto the page, it's just better overall, just trust me. And tip number 3 I'll give you is to make it fun and plan smart. So if you set yourself tasks that are extremely boring and they're extremely unfulfilling and they might not even be that good for making progress in a language, it's very, very easy to deviate from them for no reason. So make sure when you do set yourself tasks, you are making them fun as well. Read about a topic you enjoy, watch videos on things you enjoy. Try and do things you normally do in your native language in the foreign language you're learning, and you'll find it so much easier to actually make progress. But yeah, if you did find all that useful, guys, I'd highly recommend you look in the description and check out the Language Learning Accelerator. I won't say any more on it now, but it would be hyper useful for anyone looking to learn a language. I've also got my Discord as well. So thank you for watching, and I hope you found something useful.